Hello again, everybody, and welcome to week 2 of the high school football preview show here, the Altoona Mirror on YouTube TV. Don't forget that you can watch the show, besides on YouTube, you can now watch it on public access, 5:30 p.m. on Wednesdays if you have Breeze Line. And also you can watch us on Facebook. We had a really nice reception last week, the first week. I mean, we had a ton of shows.
Yeah, you
ton
just
of
go.
hits.
Yeah, you just go to the Altoona Mirror's Facebook, and it'll be on there Wednesday at some point.
Yes, and yeah, YouTube Wednesdays at 5:30. Real quickly, everybody knows this, but I'm going to do it just in case we got anybody first time. Mike Boydham, football guru number 1. Andy Stine, football guru number 2. My name is Scott Franco. Dan Eisberg's behind the camera. And real quick, any free stuff this year? People send us stuff through our many years on the air. We have it piled up in the corner. We have some of it behind us. It's out in the office. But sunglasses. I'd like pencils.
That would send sunglasses.
Yeah, but whatever you want to send us, and Dan will put up the address for the mayor across the screen if you're interested in sending us some. We're going to go right into the games. Mike's got 5 games picked out. State College at Altoona. State College won big at Gateway last week. Altoona lost big at Hollidaysburg last week. What are you expecting from this game?
Well, I mean, when I was at that game last week, I don't know if I was late to the party or what, but the Altoona football team threw the ball a lot, and I was not expecting that. So Parker White looked like a very good quarterback to me, and I'll be honest, there were times where Hollidaysburg, Altoona got behind them on the coverage, and Vince Niedermeyer said when they watch the tape back, they'll see those plays. There were plays to be made. Like Altoona could have had a few touchdown passes that went for long yardage. White did make some really good throws during their best stretch there. He had like 3 first downs in a row. They passed the ball. I think he threw for 60 yards in the first half. But the second half, Hollidaysburg kind of adjusted to that, and it didn't go as well. So I want to see Altoona be able to still run the ball, though, which is something I was kind of shocked by. I didn't see, they ran the ball with several different guys, Julian Hazelwood, Clevens. They had a nice run from Shimmy. Luke Geishauser had a 52-yard run. But I'd like to see more out of that as the year goes on, and they're going to need that because you can't just throw the ball 30 times against State College and expect to win.
Because everything you want to run the ball as long as part of to keep their offense. Yeah. But the question I would ask you is, you're the coaches and you're the Altoona coach and players watching film of that Gateway game. How do you look for something in that game to say to Altoona kids, okay, here's where we're going to attack it. Here's where we're going to do this. Because 42-14, I think it was. 42-14 over Gateway. What do you do?
And it's daunting, but I think Altoona should probably, focus on the good stuff that they did do against Hollidaysburg. Like you said, there were some long runs. The quarterback got for a long touchdown. And just focus on that. State College is good, and we all know it. But hey, different year, line it up.
Our second game, talking about a game of the year right now in week 2. McCourt Carroll coming off of a win last week at Bellwood Annis. Bellwood Annis, which right now, best win last weekend. Yeah. I mean, there were some other upsets, but that was, and I apologize, Nick Loveridge. I should have picked you. I feel like I let you down. But Bellwood Annis beats Clearfield. And then now McCourt Carroll, and you talked about they played good games in the past as well.
Yeah, McCourt Carroll won against Bedford last week, 39-7, which is actually a game they lost last year. Or they had lost to Bedford, so turned that around. Last year, McCourt Carroll lost 34-33 to Bellwood in one of the best games of the year. It was at Point Stadium. It was a really good game. Came down to the last few plays. And McCourt Carroll, they only had 2 seniors last year. So they're bringing that whole team back, basically. Added a couple other players. And then Bellwood has a lot of their players back. They lose the quarterback, Holden Schreier, but They got Alex McCartney back and Chase Plummer. And Alex McCartney had a huge game, both offensively and defensively, against Clearfield. Had 3 touchdowns, including the game winner with 31 seconds left. These are the 2 top teams, along with Richland, in 2A. I mean, River Valley will probably be in there too, and we'll have to see how that Heritage Conference schedule stacks up against Laurel Highlands. But as far as 2A goes, this is a huge game. And when I talked to Coach Smith going into this game, he said, I looked at this game at the beginning of the season, and I thought this might be our biggest game of the year.
We talked off camera where we were saying about, okay, Nick Loverich's toughest task is going to be now, and maybe in Court Carroll too. Okay, Clearfield's over with, the Bedford game's over with. Now you got to focus on that because you have to be feeling good. I mean, like, the Court has to know what Bellwood did with Clearfield.
Yeah, and I think we got to look at, the Nick Lovrich era, like you said, 7-8 years now. You can agree or disagree with me. I think it's Nick Loverich's best win of his career to beat Clearfield.
At
Clearfield too. Yeah, that's an outstanding win.
Well, let's not forget that Nick Lovrich came in at the end of the year last year and did our show and brought us this helmet.
Yeah, he did.
I gotta feel like that had something to do.
That's right.
That's Melwood was able to get this big win.
But yeah, I think his biggest task this week is beating Clearfield. That's over with. Let's move on because this was a very close game last year. This McCord Carroll game.
And being at home too, because I would have felt bad. I would have had to go on the road to Clearfield and then to Johnstown. I'd be like, okay, who's the schedule maker for the Laurel Highlands? Yeah. What kind of favor is that?
Yeah.
Our next game, 2 teams, which I think all 3 of us agree, we did not think both would be 0-1. I don't think nobody thought they were going to be 0-1. Claysburg, Camelot, Northern Bedford. What are your expectations from this game?
Well, when I talked to Coach Black going into this game, he said that he was happy with almost everything that happened at Northern Bedford Southern Huntington game, except for the final score. They were inside the 20 several times. They moved the ball, just not when they got deep. They played good defense. And they have a lot of new players. This isn't like you can't hold Northern Bedford to this standard that they've been playing at in the last few years. I mean, they have new players, and they've got to find their roles. The one thing I'll say about Northern Bedford being 0-1 is if they lose this game, all 4 teams in 1A District 5 make the playoffs. So even if they would have a train wreck of a season, which I don't think will happen, they have too good of players. Coach Black's too good of a coach for that to happen. But if they did, they could still choose to enter the playoffs and have a chance. Claysburg, they need this game as far as standings go because their goals coming in were to get a high seed in District 6 and play at Mansion Park for the district title. So you need to not just you need to qualify. There are more 1A teams in District 6 than playoff spots. And if you're on one of those home games, you're going to have to start winning some games here. So this is an important game for them.
This week practice for those 2 teams. Are the coaches taskmasters where they turn up a notch and getting on them, or do you be like, no, because they'll think we're panicking. Just keep going the process, or do you get fired up and like going, hey, you're 0-1, you better get it together?
Well, I don't think it's time to panic by any means. And it's unfortunate that one of these teams will be 0-2, at the end of Friday night. But at the same time, they still have to remember they can still have a very good year. But right now, I don't think it's time to panic at all.
I will say this too. Remember last year, Claysburg almost beat Northern Bedford. It was 18-15, and Northern Bedford had a pretty good team last year. Obviously, Claysburg did too, as we would find out later. But this was kind of the first hint where we were like, oh, Claysburg might be pretty good this year.
Our next game, 2 teams that are pretty good. River Valley, coached by Ed Dalton, which our older viewers remember. He coached Altoona there in the mid to late 90s, and everywhere he's gone, he's turning things around, and they've won. At Cambria Heights, which they've been good for a while too. Cambria Heights is home. What do you expect from this game?
Well, River Valley is the picked from the Heritage Conference coaches as the team to beat. And they did nothing to disprove that last week with a 33-0 win over Penns Manor. And Cambria Heights had to win at the very last minute against United Valley. Now, United Valley was also picked very highly. That was a good win for Cambria Heights last week. Those three teams are probably going to be at the top of the Heritage Conference, which is a pretty evenly matched conference. But I thought it was impressive that Cambria Heights was able to get the win with a lot of new starters. And I don't know if you've ever been part of a team like this, Andy, but like there was a team like these kids were not playing because they were not good enough. The people ahead of them were excellent. Yeah. So that's why they didn't get a chance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. How long does it take to get your feet wet before you can?
For a young person, like say if you're starting out, you can start as a freshman now, I guess. But
yeah,
I started for the first time as a sophomore on defense. I would say it took me half the season probably to really get my feet wet, really, understand where things are coming, basically.
And our next game that we're looking at, Richland and Bishop Guilfoyle, Saturday night. Richland coming off a win over Central Cambria, which it was kind of struggling at halftime and turned it on. BG, you were at the BG game last week. It was like 24-18 at halftime.
Oh, it was 14-12.
14-12, so it was even closer. And then BG turned it on in the second half. Your expectations for this one?
Well, the game's at Mansion Park, but that's no problem for Richland. They've played there a lot, played in a lot of district championship games. And I'll tell you what, these two teams have been the top two teams in small school in District 6. Because if you look at 2A, Richland over the last 10 years, probably the best team. 1A, BG has clearly been. So the last time they faced each other was actually in 2022 in the 2A semifinals when BG had moved up, and BG was able to knock off Richland in that game. So Richland has that in their minds, and every time these teams play, it's like a playoff type atmosphere.
We talked before. Coaches hate Saturday high school football games. They got to think.
Yeah.
Kids don't. But I mean, how many kids are? You think it bothers them?
I know I didn't like Saturday high school games just because you don't have to go to school on Saturday. You're kind of sitting around waiting all day, waiting for the game to start. I know you're probably trying to look into college games and everything.
You're probably watching Penn State play Temple or something.
Yeah, if you can watch Penn State, they're starting at 3:30 on Saturday. But you're kind of sitting around all day just waiting to go to the football game. Yeah, I never liked that either.
Yeah, I think this would be a game if there was no college football on TV this week. I would go to this game because I think it's going to be a very good game. Now we're going to take real quick. Mike has two quick hits for us. And our first quick hit is going to be Alderdice and Hollidaysburg. Hollidaysburg won last week. Alderdice won last week over Fox Chapel. You saw Hollidaysburg. What do you think they need to do better this week for that game?
Well, I will say that Hollidaysburg got off to a little bit of a slow. They were sloppy with the ball. That's what I would say. They fumbled several times. Didn't lose all the fumbles, but I know Cole Delatich threw an interception, then actually got returned for a touchdown until it got wiped out by a personal foul by Altoona. But the turnovers really, they need to cut back on the turnovers, and this is a good team to do that against. They for whatever reason last year really played well against Alderdice. 2 games, I think they outscored them 83-7.
Our quick hit, and I'm going to reverse pivot here. I'll ask you, and I'll come back to you on the second one. Phillipsburg at Chestnut Ridge, just because you're familiar with Froman, with Coach Froman. You just come off of a huge win over Central. Even though Central's down a little bit. But now he's got to go to Chestnut Ridge. And Max Shoemaker, Chestnut Ridge is always good.
It definitely does get easier, for sure.
How important is this for Phillipsburg? They can't, go out and lay an egg now and diminish a little bit what you did against Central.
Right, yeah. It's important to, put another good game together. If they win, great. But Chestnut Ridge is a very good team. I will say that all the signs point to Phillipsburg being much better this year.
Yeah, no.
Well, I'd just like to say to Todd Irwin, if he's watching this show, that, he said nobody was really talking about DeMarcus Law. Well, he needs to read the Altoona Mirror and the Blitz magazine a little bit closer, because we've talked about DeMarcus Law a lot, and he's going to be a name you hear a lot.
In Todd's two things, he's a writer for us, and he is P.O. through and through. He bleeds P&O.
If he got in a fight and the law kid won, could you say I fought the law and the law won?
Okay, that is uncalled for.
Oh,
what? Is uncalled for right now. But since he's talking, we'll let him go right to Andy's line of the week.
Short steps. Short steps are better than long steps.
I'm too disappointed to even no, I'm just kidding. I'll do line of the week. All right. So, Holiday Spirit, you were my line of the week because 313 rushing yards against a rival. Altoona, that's outstanding, very good stuff. Left tackle, Jackson York. Left guard, Austin R. Center, Scott Payne. Right guard, Matthew Walters. Right tackle, Lincoln Wirtz. Good luck against Alderdice.
Those are some beefy kids. If you've seen Hollidaysburg, they look like linemen. Okay, then we're going to get to Mike's stat of the week. What do you have for us?
All right, my stat of the week this week is the Westmont Hilltop lost their opener to Forest Hills, but it was a much different game than normally takes place in Westmont Hilltop. Westmont plays Tyrone this week. That's at Tyrone. Two teams that would need a win. So they attempted 30 passes in their week 1 loss against Forest Hills. In 2020, now it was only an 8-game season, but it's still 8 games. In 2020, Westmont only attempted 27 passes all year. What? So in this first game, they attempted more passes than they did an entire season just 5 years ago.
And they used to run that Veer or Delaware wing tee.
Yeah, it was hard.
Their leading receiver for the year at the end of the year would have been like 9 catches.
Yeah.
For 7 years.
The ball, that's right.
That'd be where I used to love to watch that because it's like watching an Army or Navy.
3 years of a cloud of dust.
And before we close up shop, Scott's cool name segment, we actually have our first 2 high school kids.
I wanna know what's the name of the game
of the year. We are doing Tyrone from Tyrone High School, Chandler Dealing Artist. Chandler Dealing Artist. He's a freshman wide receiver cornerback. Chandler, which is like Chandler Bing from Friends, but Dealing Artist sounds like he should be a shipping magnet from Greece. And he's bringing in this big boat full of lobsters. Okay, again, uncalled for.
Oh, that's a good song too.
And then this one, when I found out about this kid this summer, I knew this kid was going to be on our list. From Northern Bedford, another freshman, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, Lake Troutman. Lake Troutman. I always wonder if he has a little brother named Creek or maybe a sister named Stream. But Lake Troutman, that's already going to be.
Actually does. I talked to the family. I talked to Northern Bedford's athletic director, Ryan Cherry, and he said all of their children are named after.
See, that is so cool.
Kind of cool.
But I just saw that Hall of Fame. Like that to me, this is right up there with Santo Bumbachi from BG. And those names are a little bit right now. Lake Troutman, I just love that name. Love that.
If you ask me, though, Mike really looks like a fish out of water.
Hey, he even got me to participate in the cool names. They must be pretty cool.
But that's going to do it. So we don't have any more bad puns from Andy Stine or trying to sound like Frankie Valli from the Grease soundtrack. But that's going to do it. Mike Boydham, Andy Stine, our producer, director, everything. Dan Eisenberg behind the camera. I'm Scott Franco. We'll figure out what shirt I'm going to wear next week's show that'll upset people. Thanks for watching. Take care.